there, I'm Cynthia and welcome to the Dinner Fix, where I answer the question, what's for dinner? Today I'm going to be making an Italian-American dish that you see a lot on Italian menus. It's shrimp Fra Diavolo. Fra Diavolo means brother devil, and the sauce kind of gets its name from the fact that it uses red pepper flakes in the preparation, so it is a bit of a spicy sauce, but it's a yummy spice, I promise. And I'm going to be tossing the shrimp and sauce with some pasta. Though you could certainly have it on its own or alongside some vegetable or any other side that you'd like, but I'm doing pasta today. So first thing I did is I peeled and deveined some shrimp, and this is a large shrimp. This is a 16 to 20 count shrimp, and if you're not familiar with the way shrimp are kind of measured, the count refers to the number of shrimp you typically get per pound. So 16 to 20 pound shrimp means you're going to get or expect anywhere from 16 to 20 shrimp per pound of shrimp. So the higher the number, the smaller the shrimp. So have a half pound of that here. What I've also already done in advance is I've got some salted boiling water back here, and this is 2.5 quarts, to which I've added about 2.5 tablespoons of kosher salt. You want to do this to taste. Just make sure you season the water in advance. It's really hard to get pasta to taste good if you don't incorporate that salt into the boiling process. So what we're going to do is we're going to take, speaking of salt, we're going to take half a teaspoon of salt and we're going to add it to the shrimp along with some red pepper flakes, right? So we're going to get that Fra Diavolo from. We're going to give this a toss. I have a nonstick skillet on the back burner. I'm just going to bring that up to heat over medium heat, and we're going to cook our shrimp. This dish is going to come together really quickly, as do I think most of the dishes I cook on a weeknight. Hold on. I'm trying to like measure and talk to you at the same time. It's not working for me. So I added about a tablespoon and a half of olive oil to that same skillet. And we're just going to cook the shrimp on both sides about a minute per side until they're cooked. Shrimp cook really quickly. I like making this dish on a weeknight because, you know, the sauce takes maybe 15 minutes to make. You know, pasta cooks really quickly. It probably takes longer to wait for the water to boil than it does to assemble the rest of the dish. Speaking of which, our pasta water is boiling, but I'm going to wait until I start making the sauce to cook the pasta so that everything is kind of done at the same time. All right, so that's starting to warm up. So we're gonna place our shrimp in here. Actually, let's just give this one more little toss. I want to make sure that all my little shrimp have some red pepper flakes on them. So this isn't a whole lot of shrimp that we're making, but I'm doing this in a large skillet. One, because I don't want to crowd my shrimp as I'm cooking it. I want it to get a nice sear and not like steam. And two, we're going to be finishing our pasta in here, so I want to make sure that there's enough room for the sauce and then the pasta that's going to come thereafter. All right, so actually I'm going to set a timer here for just a minute. And while that's cooking, I'm going to get started. Actually, let me put that there. I'm going to get started on our onion. There goes our timer. So we're going to give these a flip. As you can see, they're nice and pink on the other side. Actually, let's start our timer for the other minute. You don't want to overcook shrimp because it does become rubbery. So as best I can, while I'm chopping an onion, I'm also going to keep an eye on that shrimp to make sure I don't overcook it. All right. So we're going to remove this from the pan. You can see it's nice and pink on the other side. We're just going to set these aside on a plate until we're ready pretty much to eat. All right, so I'm just going to set this aside over here, away from the heat. I'm gonna finish kind of running my knife through my onion just to get a really fine chop. It doesn't need to be minced, but I don't want really big chunks for my sauce. If you like, you know, really chunky sauces, you don't have to chop this, is fine. That looks pretty good. So let me just grab a bench scraper. And we're gonna add the onion into the same skillet where we just cooked our shrimp. And we're gonna cook this for 5 minutes, roughly, give or take, just until the onion is softened and it's nice and translucent. All right, so let's give that a stir. Oh, got a piece of paper. The onions are making me cry. Don't cry. I hate that. I didn't cry chopping the onions, but now that I'm cooking them, I'm struggling. All right, so we're just gonna let that continue to cook, keeping an eye on it. Meanwhile, I have here 2 cloves of garlic, and we're gonna just chop. Whoa. Don't know if you saw that, but a chunk of garlic just flew off of my cutting board. It's really weird. Sometimes I give these like a pound and they don't budge, and sometimes I just like whack them and they completely fall apart on me. So I was a little more gentle with the second clove, and of course now the paper's like not coming off. You just can't win. You just can't win. Let's give that a stir. All right. All right, there we go. It's putting up a lot less resistance now. All right. So let's just give that a pretty fine chop. I'm getting like a whiff of the shrimp over on this side, and then the onions over here. It smells really, really good. I'm really, really hungry, so looking forward to this dish. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's give that a stir. All right, so our onion's just about cooked. So we're gonna add the ingredients for our sauce. For our sauce, we're gonna need a can of diced tomatoes. Don't drain these, you're gonna want their juices. We're gonna add, what is this? Half a cup of dry white wine. If you don't have a dry white wine, or you just don't like cooking with wine, you can substitute like a broth of some sorts. But the wine does also, besides making the sauce, serve the purpose of bringing the flavor out of the tomatoes, as alcohol does. We have the 2 cloves of garlic that you saw me chop just moments ago. And then we're gonna add a pinch of oregano. That's about a pinch. All right, let's give this a stir. And we're gonna bring this up to a simmer, and we're gonna cook it uncovered for 10 minutes, just until the sauce begins to thicken up. At the same time, I have my water that's been patiently waiting and boiling over here. I'm gonna go ahead and cook our pasta. And I have here, I'm using half a pound of spaghetti. This is actually just some spaghetti I had left over from a meal I made last week. The tallarín verde, so look for that video as well. Anyway, so we're gonna add half of our box of pasta. So this is 8 ounces of pasta. Now the instructions tell you it's al dente in 10 to 11 minutes. I like to pull my pasta out just a minute or 2 before, when I'm gonna finish cooking it in a sauce, as I'm gonna be doing today. So I'm gonna be pulling this out at the 8 or 9 minute mark, and then incorporating it and finish cooking it in our sauce for like another minute or 2. So while that's happening, let's prepare our, I guess our finishing touches for our sauce. I was going to say garnishes, but they're not really garnishes. We're going to be adding some fresh basil and some fresh parsley to the sauce at the end once it's finished cooking. So I'm just going to take a couple, I'm actually going to just take 3 of these leaves. These are like ginormous basil leaves. I'm just going to take 3 of them. I'm going to roll them up because I want this julienne. So we're just going to roll that up and give that a really fine slice right on through. Actually, that's perfect. All right, and we're gonna just coarsely chop our parsley. And this is just the parsley leaves. I removed the stems earlier. No. I'm just gonna give that a coarse chop. Okay, put this in a bowl. And that's pretty much equal parts parsley and basil. All right, so I'm actually going to turn this down to low. It is bubbling rather rapidly. And one thing I didn't do that I'm realizing now is I didn't season this with salt. Yeah, this should be pretty much flavorless because I did buy unsalted tomatoes. So let's start with, I'm gonna do like a half teaspoon of salt. I suspect this is gonna need like a full teaspoon, but you know, you can season it to your tastes. It's really good. I'm already getting a lot of that garlic flavor, even though we added it toward the end there. All right, so I added a teaspoon of salt total. We're just gonna let that continue to simmer. Bring our shrimp over here. Meanwhile, I'm just gonna do some cleaning up. So the other thing I like about this dish is it doesn't use a whole lot of dishes. So I'm already done washing dishes. All right, so it's been 8 minutes on that pasta. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn that off. Actually, I'm gonna need this again. And I'm gonna go ahead and drain it. Now, before I drain it, I am gonna reserve a cup of the pasta cooking water because we may need it when it comes time to assemble our sauce if it gets too thick, to thin it up a little. And then it also helps kind of the sauce adhere to the pasta. You're just seeing steam there right now. Anyway, let me drain this. So there's our pasta. And then here's the pasta cooking water. And I have, just a little bit under a cup, but that should be fine. I don't think I've ever needed more than half a cup for this. As you can see, our sauce has thickened up considerably, which is exactly what we were looking for. So what we're gonna do, and there's, say 2 seconds left on the timer, but there it goes. So what we're gonna do is we're now gonna toss this pasta in with our sauce. I don't need that anymore. And we're just gonna toss this to combine. And actually, let's set a timer for 2 more minutes. So see what I was saying, as you're tossing this, it looks a little dry, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add just a little bit of this pasta cooking water. And what's gonna happen is because the pasta is still a little undercooked, actually you can't see that side angle, can you? There we go. Because this pasta, I undercooked it, it's still going to continue to absorb water as it's cooking in the sauce. So it's gonna absorb some of the tomato sauce, it's gonna continue to absorb some of the pasta cooking water. And as that happens, it dries out. So that's why you wanna set aside some extra water. Otherwise you just end up with like really dry tomato sauce on pasta, which I don't know, doesn't sound a whole lot like something I would want to eat. All right, so just gonna continue to toss, and as you can see, that pasta cooking water that I added earlier is almost gone again because the pasta has just soaked it right up. And you can also see that the pasta has actually started to turn like pinkish, orangish almost, as it's absorbing the tomato sauce as well that we had cooking here in the saucepan. Let me add just a little bit more. You just want to add it a little bit at a time. I'm adding maybe like a 1/4 cup at a time. And even once we've taken the pasta off the heat and it's just sitting there, it's going to continue to absorb some of this water. I don't know what it is about just like shrimp. There we go. What it is about like just shrimp and garlic and pasta. That just sounds so good to me. It smells so good to me. All right, so that's done. I'm gonna take this off the heat, and then I'm gonna add a couple of things. So I'm gonna add those herbs we chopped up earlier. So again, this is just some basil and some parsley. We're gonna toss that in. Give that a toss. Look at how pretty that looks. This is an easy dinner that you can make, even if you have like company over and you want to do something that is delicious but isn't like super complicated and it's still going to like impress people. I think this is a really good dish to make. So there's our pasta. We're going to add our shrimp back into the mix, including any juices that may have accumulated in the bowl. We're just going to give this one more toss. All right, so let's plate. And I like serving this like I do just about any kind of pasta in just a shallow pasta bowl, because it just kind of collects any sauces and juices. And as you can see, this is a really generous portion. This serves two. Then my husband is a big guy, so I gotta make quite a bit. And I've got an appetite too. So, all right. Okay, I think that's good. Let's give this a taste. Let's try the pasta first. Really good. The pasta's perfectly seasoned. It's still got a little bit of bite, like it's still al dente. And again, that comes from pulling the pasta out of the cooking water before it was finished cooking and then just letting it finish cooking here. Otherwise, had we pulled that pasta out when it was al dente and then continue to cook it here, you'd end up with overcooked pasta. No, this still has a little bit of a bite to it. And speaking of bite, you get a little bit of the kick from the red pepper flake, but it's not, so spicy that like you can't eat this. I probably would add more red pepper flakes to this after the fact, even like as a garnish, or just serve it alongside at the table in case you want to add some more after. But no, really, really good. I want to go for another bite, but I should probably try the shrimp as much as I want to keep eating the pasta. So let's try the shrimp. Maybe I'll do shrimp and pasta, or maybe I'll just do shrimp. So as you can see, it's cooked perfectly through. It's opaque. Now it's perfect. It's cooked. It's not rubbery. It's delicious. You get that heat from the red pepper flake also on the shrimp. The tomatoes just taste bright. All very, very, very good. So there you have it. Shrimp Fra Diavolo with pasta. I'm going to keep eating. I encourage you to make this at home, and we'll see you next time. Enjoy.